Okay, so great. Uh, let's move to the very first strategy for the day, which is this one, the power of choice board. Students, and for that matter, anyone, everyone loves freedom, freedom of choice. So being able to choose your reward, your activities, your etc. As far as we are concerned, we teachers know what we want to be able to accomplish. We want what the students to learn. As to how they will be able to reach the objective, there are many ways. You can make them watch a movie, you can lecture, you can make them discuss, you can make them debate, you can make them listen to a recorded lecture. Really, there are so many ways of being able to achieve the end, which is learning or that they understand the lesson. Now, when they are able to do so, there are many different ways that you can quote unquote react to it. You can reward them, you can encourage them, you can motivate them even more, you can challenge them even more. In other words, every step of the way in our teaching, maraming pwedeng gawin on how we present the lesson, how we make the students engaged, and how we reward them. If you pass on the choice to the students, then they will be more engaged. For example, provide students with options for assignments or for activities or for promoting autonomy and responsibility. Okay, I know many times we are required by our coordinator, by our principal, by our academic officer to submit our unit plans, lesson plans, etc. But in our preparation of the unit plan, every so often you provide their um, options for the students. In other words, estudyante ang papapiliin natin. Do they want to do a debate? Do they want to do a group report? Do they want to make a presentation? Do they want to set up an exhibit? Do they want to perform, demonstrate? For as long as all of them are well prepared and well done and will really demonstrate learning, understanding of the lesson, that's very powerful. It is very powerful, especially actually most of the rewards I've talked about with you in the previous sessions, in the four other previous sessions. You remember, I always talked about presenting a menu of rewards for for the students to choose from. That's power of choice. That's power of um, empowering students. I mean, that's a fruit of being able to empower students. And you stand a better chance of getting the students engaged, excited, and learning. That's in the end what we are after. Okay? So have that in mind that every so often we have to get the students to experience their power of choice, their freedom of choice. In fact, you can even apply that in punishments. You'll be surprised. The students can be more stern, more strict, more in choosing consequence for actions, wrong actions, for example, that they do. If, for example, half the class fails in a quiz, in a test, which meant maybe the reason is because hindi sila nag-aral, tamad, uh, nagpadala sila sa hangover from the um, long break, the Christmas break, or ngayon meron na din tayong Holy Week break kasi Hindi pa tapos ang school year. I mean, dati, by the time we have Holy Week, tapos na yung school year. Eh ngayon, iba na ang calendar, ano? Sa pool, ang Holy Week. So now we will have to give them that, I don't know, 1 week break. And then pagbalik nila, they're not in the best disposition, the best state condition to proceed with a lesson. And then you give them a test, and then many of them fail. Well, give them the power of choice as far as consequence is concerned. Are you going to therefore give them more assignments? Is that what they choose? Or are they going to have to do a retest and the test will have to be more difficult? Or they will have to remain after dismissal for a day or two for extra review classes? I don't know. But there's got to be a consequence. But the consequence, they can choose from a menu of consequences that you're going to give them. No one wants dictatorship. I mean, we resent dictatorship, whether it's in government or in even in a school. I mean, teachers don't like it when they are dictated upon, and then there is no choice about what they have to do, what they have to accomplish, what they. All of us want freedom and choice, and so we pass this on to them. Okay, let's move on to another um, strategy: growth mindset affirmations. When I walk inside a classroom, many times the decorations, the way the classroom is designed, the way the bulletin board is decorated, all of these can tell me if the classroom is a caring place, is an encouraging place, is a motivating place, because I will see affirmations, growth mindset affirmations. That's why, well, I totally disagree with what Department of Education has put as a requirement. You remember at the start of the school year, DepEd required schools to clean up, remove, quote unquote, distractions. Strangely, even some classrooms were asked to remove the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's absurd, but this is how we learn, by seeing, not just by hearing, not just by reading, not just by listen. We hear, I mean, we learn even from what we see. The classroom decoration can be a very powerful tool to teach. And one of the ways that we can use decoration to teach is by making sure that our growth mindset affirmations introduce affirmations through posters, through quote of the day written on the whiteboard, on the blackboard, which promote a growth mindset and encourage perseverance in learning. So, here are some samples that can be hanging on the ceiling, on the rather on the walls, on the bulletin boards, on the blackboard, that you look around and there are encouraging words that sometimes may be what students just badly need in order to make it through the day, in order to survive a tiring day, in order to keep on going in spite of the challenges, in spite of the difficulties, because really difficulties abound. I don't know if you came across, there is this post of a teacher, grade 2 teacher, na nagva-viral ngayon sa social media, especially sa Facebook. A DepEd teacher who posted there how she is, well, practically sick and tired of having to deal with the students. Grade 2 students, kinocomplain niya dun that they don't listen, that they don't get motivated, that they are bastos, that they don't have manners anymore, that they disregard her, no respect for authority. Yan. Minsan, it's not the students that need the affirmation. It's we teachers who need the affirmation. And if those quotations, if those posters, if those postcards that we post there on our desk and we read it before we leave the faculty room and go to the classroom, then make it benefit us. Use them in order to help us. So, growth, mindset, affirmations. We have to surround ourselves with these things. Okay, well, I said I'm going to show some videos. Let me pause recording first because YouTube will flag me for copyrighted material, resume recording. Okay, let's move on to another strategy. This one is the complement chain reaction. Encourage students to offer compliments to each other, fostering a positive and uplifting class culture. Similar to, I think we've already had a similar strategy in the past 4 days that we've been discussing strategies. And this is just another one of those to create a culture of kindness, caring, support, camaraderie, friendship, especially in basic education, no? Because that is where nagigising ang mga kabataan sa mga bagay na yung parang nag-uudyok sa kanilang puso na magkaroon ng kaibigan, na maging maintindihin para sa ibang tao, yung ganong klase. That, in fact, many times we say that the preschool is nothing else but that, training the kids in being able to deal with other people. Well, very much the same happens in the rest of the years that they spend in basic education. Okay, let's move on to real classroom management and classroom disciplining strategies. Sabi ni Harry Wong, the author of the First Days of School that I've been referring to, making reference to in the past 4 sessions, dapat daw yung seminars on classroom management and discipline, dapat ginagawa raw ito sa isang ballet studio where you have many mirrors all around. Because, according to Harry Wong, one of the most important strategies that teachers have to perfect, have to learn and to perfect is the strategy called the stare. Have you ever wondered how some master teachers, expert teachers, papasok lang sila ng classroom and without saying a word, without shouting, screaming, yelling, without even opening their mouth, they just stand in the middle of the room and stare, look at the students, and suddenly everybody keeps quiet. Suddenly students will start saying, "Uy, shh, quiet, quiet. Si ma'am, andito na." Wala namang sinabi si ma'am. Wala namang sinabi si sir. He just stared at them. Because, according to Harry Wong, this is one of the most effective tools of managing a class, where you stand in the middle of the classroom and then give them that kind of stare na nagsasabing, okay, come on class, I expect good behavior. We're going to start the class. You're not saying it, but your stare says it all. Now, we have to be very careful kasi hindi natin nakikita yung mukha natin, unless you look precisely in front of the mirror. That's why Harry Wong says, You have to look at yourself in the mirror and then look for that kind of stare that communicates that kind of message. Oh, come on, class. I expect best behavior. No more talking without saying a word, but just with a stare. May iba kasing stare na parang ang mensahe na nakukuha ng mga estudyante is para bang mga hayop kayo, mga bata kayo, sang impyerno kayo ng galing. That kind of stare na para bang nakakatakot, na terrorizing. So Harry Wong says, look for it. Look for that kind of stare that communicates positive expectation, positive expectation. Come on, you expect the best from them. You expect best behavior from them. Now, if you are the kind of teacher who already spent a lot of time in the past resorting to shouting, screaming, and yelling, and getting angry, yung talagang pinapakitang galit na galit, this may be a very difficult strategy to use. Kasi parang nalagyan na natin ng terror yung ating way of disciplining and way of managing. That's why this can only be effective if you make sure you do not resort to, even every now and then only, yung Mr. Dantoy, paminsan-minsan lang naman ako napapasigaw, na yung galit na galit. No, we have to be very consistent about this. One of the important things about classroom management and discipline is our consistency, that we are consistently in control of our temper, in control of our anger, in control of ourselves. But the beautiful thing about teaching is every year, every new school year, it's like a fresh new beginning. Yung bang, regardless of how we were in the past year or even now in the middle of the school year, regardless of how you may have um, committed mistakes this past weeks, these past months about shouting, screaming, yelling, if we start now and make sure that from here on, we will only use effective strategies to manage and discipline the class, we still can work it out. Let's go to another very important strategy. And I'm very excited I was very excited when I learned Harry Wong used this. Hal Urban used this. Hal Urban, yung author ng 20 Things Good Teachers Do. Rafe Esquith, the one we talked about, the economic system, used this check system. And then this guy, Ron Clark, he also used it. If the best teachers use the check system, then it must be effective and it must be good. Because if the best teachers use this system, then we who are not even among the world's best teachers yet can learn from it. So, what is this check system? Here's the very important point about the check system. Harry Wong says, do not eat up academic time in order to discipline. Do not waste academic time in order to discipline. And there are teachers who do this. They waste a lot of academic time. When they get very angry at the class, upset at the class, they stop teaching. And then they start magsasermon. Minsan, hanggang matapos yung period, wala nang ginawa kundi magalit sa mga estudyante, mag-sermon, minsan iiyak pa, minsan magwa-walk out pa. And some students, parang they make that as a challenge. How soon can we make ma'am or sir walk out of the classroom? Well, the dozens, the almost 100 strategies I've shared with you are all geared towards making sure you will never have to resort to walk out. Because walking out of the classroom means you've given up. Means nilamon ka na ng buong buo ng mga estudyante. So, how does the check system work? Remember what I told you about rules, classroom rules, which are different from classroom procedures. You can have hundreds of procedures. Just make sure you teach them and you rehearse the students. You rehearse them until they become routine. So those are not rules, they are procedures. But as far as rules are concerned, have only as many that students can memorize. Kung hindi nga kayang i-memorize, how do you expect them to fulfill or to comply with those rules? So I shared with you, I think, in one session, in my case, ever since I discovered this from Harry Wong, would only have three simple classroom rules. No unnecessary noise, no unnecessary movement, come prepared for class. Okay? And I explained to them, ano ibig sabihin ng no unnecessary noise, no unnecessary movement, come prepared for class. I'm lecturing. Si John and Joey start talking. They have chosen to break rule number 1. Joanna suddenly stands up to sharpen the pencil. Ah, teka muna, that's not the procedure if you need to sharpen your pencil. She has chosen to break rule number 2. So, um, those are the only 3 rules. If they choose to break any of my rules, then the check system comes into place. And here's how it works. I'm, let's say, lecturing. Sabihin natin ang subject is English. And I'm talking about subject-verb agreement. Okay, class, there, in English, there is the rule about if the subject is plural, the verb must be plural. If the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. And then I suddenly notice John and Joey talking. They have chosen to break rule number 1. I'm not going to stop lecturing. I'm not going to stop teaching. I will just calmly pick up the pen, the marker, the chalk, whatever is the board there. And while still lecturing, I will go to the board and write their names, John, Joey, while still lecturing. And John and Joey will see that, and they know that if their name is written on the board, that's a warning. No punishment, no consequence yet. It's just a warning because they have chosen to break my rule number 1. And they know it because I explained that talking while the teacher is lecturing can be distracting and therefore unnecessary noise. They will stop. They will stop. So I continue lecturing. You see, I managed to get John and Joey to stop talking without having to waste academic time, like what some ineffective teachers do. Ineffective teachers, what they will do is, John, Joey, stop talking. Kanina ko pa kayo tinitingnan dyan ah. Hindi, ilang beses ba kayong dapat pagsabihan? Sasagot si John, Ma'am, 10 times. And then you get angry. Are you challenging my authority? In the first place, ba't mo tinanong how many times do I have to tell you? Tinanong mo, di sumagot. Don't ever resort to useless words like that. Like, how many times I have to tell you? What is wrong with you? Bingi ka ba? Hindi ka ba nakikinig? When you start using all those useless words, you're eating up academic time in order to discipline. That's a sign of ineffectiveness. Ineffective teachers do that. You're not ineffective. That's why we are using strategies. So I continue lecturing. But you know, class, sometimes some subjects are always singular, like everybody, everyone, everything, nothing, someone, somebody. And then I noticed John and Joey talking again. They have continued to choose to break my rule, my one of my rules. I don't get angry. I don't get upset, and I don't stop teaching. I just calmly pick up the chalk or whiteboard marker and put a check mark beside their names. And they know because I explained this at the start of the quarter, at the start of the school year, or if you're going to use this, you can explain it on Monday when you meet them, the check system, that if they choose to break any of your rules, you will implement the check system. They know that if your name is written on the board with one check mark beside it, it means that you are going to stay for 5 minutes of detention in recess, in lunch, in dismissal time, whichever is coming up next. 5 minutes, while everyone else will run to go to their recess. You stay for 5 minutes, clean the room as consequence of your having chosen to break one of my rules. A second check mark will mean 15 minutes of detention in recess, in lunch, dismissal time, whichever is coming up next. Third check mark, 3 check marks beside your name written on the board means that you will have to come back on Saturday. A fourth check mark beside your name means I will have to call up your parents to inform them of your repeated offense of breaking one of the rooms in the classroom. You see, you do not stop teaching. You just have to calmly pick up the whiteboard marker, the chalk, and put the check mark. It works. It works, especially if you're consistent with this and you are fair and you explain clearly the system. Now, the beautiful thing about this is the next time you enter the classroom, the next class, the next, let's say the next day when you have again a period with them, the board is clean. You erase it. No one, everyone deserves a fresh new beginning, a fresh new start. And you're not going to make references to the previous day. None of the useless things like John and Joey, kahapon nakadalawa kayo sa akin, nakadalawa kayo. No, none like that. Every period is a fresh new start and everybody deserves a new beginning. Okay, so it works. Even better if you attach the check system with a certain class reward. For example, I would tell the class, okay, class, if this week I would never have to write anyone's name on the board as a warning, I would never have to put a check mark on anyone's name. If this week no one will ever get a check mark beside his name, then the class will be up for a class reward. Whether it is a 15-minute free time next week where we can watch a video, watch a movie, make them read whatever they want. Because then what happens next is if John and Joey misbehave, and you will write their names on the board, you know what happens? The whole class will look at John and Joey, and the whole class will say, John, Joey, keep quiet. Stop talking. Yeah. They will discipline themselves. They will manage each other. You will just have to concentrate on teaching, on lecturing, on giving them the quiz, because they themselves as a class would want to get that reward. That class reward, again, you're not rewarding individuals, you are rewarding the class for teamwork, for working together, for cooperating as class. Okay, so it works. It's wonderful. And another reason why I like it very much is it's very fair. It's very fair. You do not punish right away. You remember the first offense is just write the name on the board. That doesn't have any consequence. It's just like a warning. That's why it's very fair. It's not like you are always on the lookout for someone to punish. Parang the check system is not there like as parang as a terror instrument or instrument of torture. In fact, it can become an instrument of encouragement or motivation for the class to work together so that no one will ever have to be given even a warning, and the class will be up for the reward. It works. I repeat, if Hal Urban, Harry Wong, Ron Clark, and um, Hal Urban, Ron Clark, and the four teachers. Rafe Esquith, there. Use it. It must be effective. It must be a good system. Okay, here's another classroom management strategy, classroom discipline strategy, the stopwatch system, very similar to the check system, but it's especially more geared towards providing the class an opportunity to get a class reward. Here's how it works. I usually would have a clock that has a countdown, okay? And in South Ridge, for many years where I was teaching, we would have 50-minute periods. And so at the start of the month, I would go to my first session with the students at the beginning of the month. I would tell them, okay, class, my clock here says you have 50 minutes of reward. Okay? But remember, every time somebody chooses to break any of my rules, I would have to click on the clock and it starts counting down. You are losing seconds from the reward. Let me see. Okay. Sorry, I have to mute all and not allow anyone to unmute themselves so that we don't get disturbed. Okay, so yeah, every time somebody chooses to break any of my rules, I would have to click the clock and then it would have to count down. It starts counting down and the class loses seconds. And I will not stop it until I see that the person or persons who chose to break my rules will promise to behave and not to anymore break any of the rules. Okay, so it's like that. Every time somebody breaks the rules, I would have to click on it. For example, let's go back to that English class I was talking about. The subject verb agreement I'm lecturing about. If the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. If the subject is, I notice John and Joey talking. What do? I don't get upset. I don't get angry. I don't shout. I don't scream. I don't yell. I just calmly pick up the clock, raise the clock, and click it. And I will not stop the clock that is counting down until I see John and Joey signaling me that they're sorry and that they will not talk anymore. They show me that signal. They say sorry. They will keep quiet. I stop the clock. The class has just lost 5, 7, 8 seconds from the rewards clock. And it would be like that. I'm still lecturing, and Joanna starts to walk to the sharpener, breaking rule number 2. I don't get angry. I don't stop teaching. While still lecturing, I just calmly pick up the clock and click it. And Joanna will run back to her seat, realizing that, oops, I just broke rule number 2. And I stopped the clock. Joanna just made the class lose 3, 4 seconds from the reward. And it's like that day after day. Every time somebody chooses to break any of my rules, I click. And that's for the whole month. By the end of the month, whatever is left in the rewards clock, let's say from 50 minutes, because I started the month with 50 minutes, which is one period for every class. By the end of the month, what is left there is, let's say, 42 minutes. They lost 8 minutes throughout the month because of one student or another choosing to break one of my rules. So 42 minutes left. I now give a menu of reward to the class to choose from. The class officers will have to tell me what reward the class has chosen, whether it is 42 minutes of quiz B, 42 minutes of group games that we will play with the activities related still to the lessons we took up, 42 minutes of movie or video related to the lessons that we took up, 42 minutes, whatever it is, 42 minutes of reward left for them, and they will have a menu of rewards to choose from. As a consequence of the, well, it's a rewards clock. Now, one of the best uses of this I found is, I don't know kung na-experience nyo na, magbigay ng, handle ng klase which comes right after recess or lunch break or PE, where you enter the classroom and the classroom is disarray, disorganized, ang daming kalat sa sahig, and the rows are not arranged. An ineffective teacher enters the classroom and will have to shout, will have to scream. Kailangan niyang lakasan ng boses niya kasi maingay ang mga bata. Galing ng break, galing ng PE, galing ng recess. Excited pa from the, anong tawag, sa playground where they came from. Some of the students, nangangamoy pa, pawisan. An ineffective teacher who enters the classroom at that point will have a tough time, even just to call their attention or even just to get the students to arrange the chairs, to align the rows. But you are not inefficient. You're not ineffective because we are learning strategies. And this is one of the best uses of the stopwatch system. I enter the classroom and the students know I do not start the class if magulo yung classroom, maraming basura sa sahig, the rows are not straight. I will only start the class if they are standing by their desk, the room is clean, and the rows are arranged. So I enter the classroom and the room is in the disorganized. I don't shout. I just calmly raise the clock and click it. You know what happens next? Students will start shouting, "Uy, yung sahig, ayusin nyo. Yung basura. The clock, the clock." Ayan. Because they don't want to lose rewards, especially if you offer rewards that the class will really die for. Para bang the reward you offer them is something they really want to be able to get. It has to be something that the class will want to work together as a team, will work hard together in order to get that reward. You see? And I can get the class to be ready, clean, orderly, the rows aligned in a matter of 10, 15, 20 seconds, or even less, because they don't want to lose any more seconds from the reward. And all I did was to calmly raise the clock and click it, because I'm not going to stop the clock until I see that the rows are aligned, the room is clean, they're standing by their desk. It works. It works because you will not have to get angry. You will not have to get upset. And you simply put in place the system. Okay? So it's a reward system, but especially it's a reward for all of them choosing to follow your rules inside the classroom. And then again, you can do some variations telling them, okay, if this week I will never have to click the clock, meaning to say no one ever has chosen to break any of your rules, meaning you never would have to remove any second from the reward. You will tell them, uh, especially if you're on the second or third week of the month already, and they've already lost a number of seconds from the reward, you will tell them, okay, class, if this week I will never have to click the clock, I will reset the reward clock to 50 minutes again. We will erase all the deductions that you have so far acquired because of some students choosing to break any of the rules. It works, especially if you think, I will make it work. If right now, some of you are thinking, ay, Mr. Antoy, hindi mo kilala ang estudyante namin. Walang, walang hiya-hiya, laging bastos, laging choosing to break my rules, walang respeto, that system will not work. If right now you're thinking that way, I can assure you it will not work. But if right now you're thinking, ay oo nga, mas maganda yun. I will never have to shout and scream and yell. I will just have to be always looking for, then it will work. If you're thinking you can make it work, it will work. Okay, so we're back to that positive growth mindset affirmation. You have to be always thinking that way. And for that matter, lahat ng strategies that I ever shared with you since day one, if you are thinking that will not work with my students, Mr. Antoy, kung kilala mo lang ang mga estudyante ko, they really will not work. That's why I told you, and I have repeated it over and over again, the more than 100 strategies you have heard in this seminar. I'm not telling you to do them all. I'm not even telling you to do some of them. Some you might find useful and helpful. Go ahead, try it out, but have that mindset. I can make this work. I will make this work. And if of the more than 100 strategies, wala kang nagustuhan, sure, no problem. But don't go out of the seminar thinking that nothing works. There are strategies that can work. Explore them, Google them, chat GPT them, and then choose which ones you think will really be very effective for you. Well, based on the evaluations that you have all submitted in session 4 last time, 100% rated it as excellent or very good, and many left comments like very, very helpful for us, especially new teachers. Great strategies. I am excited to do many of them. Some of you are even saying, we want more. We want more seminars like this. So I would suppose you're honest about it. And I really am excited for you to explore them and see how those strategies can transform your classroom to become a kind, caring, welcoming classroom where you do not even have to discipline, you manage. You make the students do what you want them to do without you ever having to raise your voice, resort to shouting, resort to screaming, and you end the day, you're not tired. At the end of each day, you go home feeling fresh because you never lost your patience, you never had to raise your voice. Okay, let's move on. More strategies because we only have around 20 minutes left or 25 minutes left. Empathy stations set up stations, which can be one corner, bulletin board. That's why, well, I don't hesitate to tell you, I highly disagree with the DepEd announcements about removing, keeping clean. But they're not distractions. Decorations can be a very powerful tool, effective tool, as you and I saw when we were students, to encourage, to motivate, to give inspiration. And especially now when they, the young people, badly need to develop empathy. Sabi ng research, empathy is one of the victims. It's at an all-time low. Empathy is one of the victims of the digital generation lifestyle. It's the virtue that is suffering the most because of the digital lifestyle. And what is the digital lifestyle? Kung walang supervision ng bata, wala yung parents, walang guardian, they can actually be spending the whole day in front of the TV, Netflix, social media, TikTok, Facebook, video games. Kung walang supervision ng bata, they can be in front of the screen, not dealing with any other human beings, which is the only way to learn empathy. I mean, which is what empathy, in fact, is all about, being able to know how to feel for other people. How can they feel for other people if they don't even deal with other people? Because the whole day, they're just in front of the screen. So, empathy is the one that is at its lowest in the history of mankind, according to research. And pride and vanity, all-time high. In fact, sorry to say, pero as a school officer, one of the toughest things I had to deal with in training teachers is proud, arrogant teachers. Yung ang feeling nila, magaling na sila. Ang feeling nila, they have nothing to learn from other people. I'm great, I'm good already as I am. Because that is what social media does, right? Parang it feeds on ego and vanity. Kaya titingnan mo yung kanilang Facebook, abay, ang daming selfie. Yung hitsura, ang pangit naman ang hitsura nila, pero ang daming pictures ng mukha nila. Yung 175 pictures ng kanilang mukha in all poses. And you start thinking, bakit? Because that is the kind of, that's the offshoot of digital lifestyle, of the selfie generation, of vanity and pride at an all-time high, empathy is at an all-time low, according to research, because of the digital lifestyle. And so, anything we can do inside the classroom to develop their empathy will do them a lot of good. Like having empathy stations, set up stations where students can engage in empathy building activities to better understand each other's perspectives. That is what having empathy station is all about, to make them see, feel, understand that they need others, that they have to work with others, that they are not an island in themselves, and that they will have to rely on others as they have to make themselves reliable for others. That's why we have to make them, one of the strategies I think I mentioned last meeting, make them do a lot of group works, group projects, where they will have to learn how to work with each other. Pero, sabi ni Harry Wong, do not do what some ineffective teachers do, where they will say, okay, class, count off 1 to 5. Yan. All ones together, all twos together, all threes. Di ba ganyan minsan ang group work, ano? And here's your instruction. You will submit by the end of this month a diorama of the, I don't know, maybe the plaza of the turn of the century Spanish architecture, ganyan. And that's it. Now, five of them in each group. And you know what usually happens? Isa lang ang magtatrabaho. Yung tumatakbo for valedictorian. The four others, hindi, walang ambag. And then they will submit. Hindi mo nga nakita na kung sino talagang gumawa nun. And then all of them get the same grades. All of them get the same grade. Kasi grenadean mo yung output. But you don't even know what each one contributed. That is a travesty of group work. And Harry Wong says that's very unfair and that's very bad practice. Do not ever do something as unfair as that, where you have a group, isa lang ang nagtrabaho, and then all of them get the same grade. It's unfair. It's not right. It's bad practice, in fact, which sadly happens in some schools. So, how then do you do cooperative learning? It's not just group work, it's cooperative learning. And here's how it goes. Okay, class, I'm going to divide you into groups of 5. Bakit 5? Kasi one will do the report. The other one will answer all the questions. Ito yung oral report, yung magbibigay ng report in front of the class. One will have to be ready to answer any question. Another one will do the written report. Another one will do the diorama. And maybe two of them will have to be able to do the diorama because it will need more preparation, more time. And then the other one will have to be the, in other words, you divided them according to tasks. And each one will have a clear task expected of him or her to do. Yan ang cooperative learning, where all of them will have to, in the end, all of them learn because each one of them has a concrete contribution to the final group output. Yan ang cooperative learning. And that's Harry Wong. Harry Wong said, that's how you do group work. Not the travesty, yung isa na biglang dumating yung valedictorian candidate with a beautiful diorama, pero ang gumawa naman yung nanay niya kasi ganun yung mga parents minsan no. Parang sila pa yung mas stressed about their son, their daughter really being able to finish on top of the batch, becoming the valedictorian. That's what happens in some schools, di ba? The valedictorian and salutatorian become like enemies, and that's not cooperative learning, and that's not the kind of classroom, the kind of school, the kind of culture that we want to create. So then, empathy stations, making them learn how to work as a team, work with others. Let's move on to more strategies. This one I like very much. The buddy bench. More and more schools in the US are resorting to have a buddy bench, which you can put in the middle of the schoolyard, in the middle of the hallway, or even inside the classroom. And then you tell them, okay, class, the buddy bench is a safe space. If one day you feel down, you need encouragement, you need a push, you need a shoulder to lean on. Okay, it's cheesy, I know, pero that's how the generation of young kids now, that's their generation. This is how kids are these days. We now have to deal with and contend with so-called mental health crisis. We now have to tune in to how they feel, how they are their emotions. And that buddy bench is available for anyone uh, at any time, on any day that you feel that you are at your lowest, that you need somebody to console you. The buddy bench is open, is there for you. And class, we make an agreement. Cool. Let's make an agreement. The buddy bench is a safe space. Respect it. Respect anyone who goes there. Um, don't misjudge the person. I mean, don't come up with all sorts of, oh, nagpapapansin ka lang eh. We don't know what others are going through. We just don't know how others may be feeling. And if somebody sits down there, it means it's a call for help. It's like somebody raising the white flag. I am just about to burst. I am just about to. So, and once this buddy bench system becomes a part of their, well, that it is a reality, it is there. And when you see somebody in the buddy bench um, waiting for somebody to empathize with him, with her, then be the buddy that the guy, the girl needs at that moment. Whether it is simply to talk or to give an encouraging word, whatever it is. But to respect it as a system. More and more schools in the US are resorting to having a buddy bench available for anyone because, as I said, this is the kind of generation that the young kids belong to right now. We may not, I mean, those of us who are older might think, paka-arte naman. Ito na ba yung tinatawag nating snowflakes generation? Yung bang parang too softy. Yeah, some of us can complain that way, but I repeat, we don't know how others feel. We don't know. Some of them may actually be really seriously considering, I don't know, ending their life, uh, suicide, which we hear more and more of, especially among teenagers. I don't know, but better to err, to make mistakes on being too kind than on to, dismissing this as just another one of those softy strategies of this present generation that is hopeless. Sometimes some people you hear talk like that about these young people. It's just that it's different. This is a different generation. We cannot compare them with no, nung bata ako wala naman yung mga ADD, ADHD na yan. Mag-aral ka. Huwag kang tatamad-tamad, huwag kang well, no. The things are different. Kindness, being a support to others. All these have become far more important to this generation, to these young people, more than it was important to us in the older generation. The body system, body support system, uh, pair students to support each other, creating a sense of belonging and camaraderie. And if you don't have it yet in your class, in your classroom now, it's not too late. On Monday, you pair them up so that they have a buddy. And then you will say, if you happen to be absent on one day, don't worry. Your buddy is expected to help you, to provide you with whatever you may have missed. You have a question, before coming to the teacher, you can ask your buddy for help, for answer to that question. Have a system like that. And then later, I think I'm going to talk about the buddy class system, not just one person having a body. You have a class with a higher grade body, and you give them time to, sometimes they take recess together, they take lunch together. They will, the older students, the older class can provide whatever support, encouragement, even tutorials if that is needed. A class supporting another class, as what you would have inside the classroom, a student supporting another student and each other. That's the buddy system. Whatever you do to create connections, reaching out, bridging, uniting, working with, all of these are important and useful and beneficial to the students. Let's move on. Another another strategy, the appreciation circle. Gratitude is one of the things we talked about in the past sessions. Gratitude journal, if you remember. And I remember mentioning about the counselor, marriage counselor, who would always encourage a couple that is thinking of separating to start a gratitude journal. List down 5 things they are grateful for, thankful for that day. And they have to do that every day. Well, the more we teach students, people, gratitude, appreciation, thankfulness, the better we are preparing them for life. So this is literally circle. Form students into a circle where each student expresses appreciation for the person on their right to reinforce positive connections. And then, if the class is too big, then 2 circles or even 3 circles if you want. And then at a certain point, as they pass appreciation from one to another, you make it counterclockwise. Any exercise you make the students do to express appreciation for one another adds to the kind of culture that you are creating, a culture of kindness, being nice to each other. Rafe Esquith, who was our reference for the many strategies I've shared with you so far, that's the motto he would always have for his class. Work hard, be nice. That's it. Every grade 5 class that he would have every year for almost 3 decades that he was inside that classroom in Hobart Elementary School, he would always tell them, the class motto is this: work hard, be nice. So anything that can contribute to their developing, working hard, but also being nice with each other can do a lot of good. I'm sure you've somehow even played this team building activity where you make them write an appreciation and word of encouragement, or write something positive about the person, and then you will put it at his back, at her back, with a person not knowing later on whom the good words, the kind words, the encouraging words came from. And some of them will keep this as a reminder that they are appreciated after all, that people, that they don't realize, but people appreciate their humor, their being respectful, their being, etc. Okay, I said I will have to make sure our session is not as tiring. So I'd like to share this video with you. Let me just first pause the recording. Okay, let's go to another strategy. This one is on classroom kindness journals. Encourage students to record and reflect on acts of kindness that they witnessed or that they did or that they engaged in. Similar to the gratitude journal, no? But this time around, to make them very conscious about being kind and seeing kindness and doing kind things. It is a very beautiful thing, especially because I have repeated this again and again. The young people today are living in a world that is very unkind. There is so much bashing, put down, insulting, hurting, harming. Social media is full of negativities. So, getting the students to think more, write more about kindness is a great thing that can help them. Practice kindness. At the start of the day, all students take out their good deeds journal and then they write down. You make them write down a good deed I did yesterday and a good deed I will do today. This is similar to the reflection that we talked about from day one. You have to make the students do a lot of reflecting, the impact on them of activities like this. You may not see it right away there and then. You may not even realize it. You may not even notice any difference because the difference happens inside them about how they see the world, about the how it may affect them. This is like examination of conscience. Nobody knows what happens in the mind of a person when he examines what good did I do today? What bad did I do today? What can I improve on? It's like that. So journal writing is always a positive thing. It's always a good thing. Let's continue on. Another one, another strategy, the gratitude jar. Establish a jar where students can deposit notes expressing gratitude for their peers. Something they want to express, a thank you, an appreciation, a gratitude that they want to express for one student or another. They can make it anonymous. They don't have to write their names, but they can make it clearly directed to one student or another, or one teacher or another. And then this is a very good way to end the week, that you will read the notes that have been written there before you dismiss the class and before you tell them, okay, enjoy your weekend. How wonderful it is to end the week with all these expressions of gratitude. And the students will go home thinking, was I the one being thanked there? Or if your name was clearly spelled out there, you're going to think, wow, I didn't realize people appreciated, that there were some who appreciated what I did this week. It's wonderful when we fill the world with positive words. Empathy stories exchange, have students share personal stories that promote understanding and empathy among classmates. It's part of creating connections, unifying people. Kindness mission cards. Distribute cards with random acts of kindness for students to complete, creating a culture of compassion. It's 4:20 and I still have so many strategies I've not been able to share with you. And so here's something I want to share with you. The 290 slides. You can download the PowerPoint presentation so that you can go back to some of those strategies and you can share with your other fellow teachers, or you can actually just keep on going back to the strategies that you might find useful, because you cannot implement them all now, but some of them you might find useful sometime in the future. May nag-away sa klase mo, you can go back to this PowerPoint presentation. Ano bang strategy dito ang pwede kong gamitin to counter yung ganyang klaseng behavior that I saw? Okay? And then, of course, you need your certificate for the day. Here it is. I'm going to also share the link in the chat. Let me see. Let me open the link first. January 12. Here it is. I'm going to type it in the chat box so that you can access the certificate for today. Please click on the link or scan the QR code, fill up the Google form, and I'd appreciate it if you can type in the chat box done or received once the certificate gets into your inbox. Okay? Because this ends our 5-session series on mastering classroom management. I repeat what I've already said so many times. I'm not telling you to do all the strategies. Those you think will be useful, go ahead. I'm going to stop recording now.